Hi, my name is Ray, and I'm going to show you how an artist and educator lives downtown, tiny in an ADU. This is my tiny home that is 420 square feet. It's an ADU in the back of a boutique apartment complex. I think when most people imagine tiny homes, they're thinking of rural property with a tiny home on it. But this property is unique because it's in the middle of downtown. I can walk to entertainment, I can walk to public transportation. That makes my life full of city perks, and I get to come home to a tiny, cozy home. I'm a renter and I'm very proud of that. It was a very affordable place to live, and I pay $1,300 a month. So the layout is a perfect rectangle. It's got an open floor plan with the living room and dining room, and then they built a wall for the bedroom and office, which I really appreciate because having a wall allows me to have more storage, more outlets, and two mini splits. It doesn't feel small at all. I feel like this is the perfect layout. I have ample room to stretch and do my exercises, but then I can also lay out my artwork, lay out my quilting and drawing. So I really like that about this layout. This is the one wall kitchen, and I really like how they've made the kitchen take up the entire wall because I get ample counter space and full size appliances, which is pretty unique for a tiny home. I also like how the counter at the end is free of any ranges or sinks and faucets because it can be used as a workstation. It's got ample storage with cabinets at the top and bottom. There's also a double sink, which would be great if I didn't have a dishwasher, but because I do, I can use it for dishes and crafting or things like that. I have a dishwasher again, which is very unique, and I have a full-size fridge. So all of that combined makes for a very ample kitchen. I think when it comes to storage in terms of tiny kitchens, if you really take time to put things away when you're using them, then it shouldn't be a problem with storage in a tiny house. I've always lived tiny in renovated historic buildings or efficiencies and studios. So for me, this is my way of life. I just focus on my favorite foods in terms of kitchen. So I really like soups and I really like teas, and I can focus my kitchen items on those supplies that I'll need to do my favorite foods. And if I want to explore foods beyond that, I can go outside, go to restaurants because I am downtown and all kinds of eateries are just nearby. But for my home life, I really do like to center my kitchen and my cooking on what I'm comfortable making and what I know I can do well. One of the selling points of the tiny home was the built-in shelf. I was never really a big built-in fan until I saw this place, and it really helped because you don't need to buy as much furniture and you can maximize your space. So it's got really thick, sturdy shelves that can be used to hold actual dishes and practical things. I love how they put an outlet inside of it so that this can be an appliance garage. So I could put a panini press, a toaster, a blender, and it's very practical. At this time, I'm using it partially for decoration, for gifts that I've been given, family heirlooms that have been passed down to me. So I really do appreciate the built-in shelf. And at the very top, I've put all of my plants to get the sunlight from the window and to keep it away from the cat. Overall, I really love the one wall kitchen design because it creates the biggest kitchen I've ever had, even though I've always lived tiny. And I really like the ample storage. And I think it's going to give me room to grow into the kitchen as I get stronger with cooking and as I acquire all the tools that I'll need to do it beyond my comfort zone. So I think if people are looking to design a tiny home kitchen, a one wall kitchen is really a great option. I knew I wanted to furnish the tiny home with solid wood and real metals and sturdy materials. I was looking for antiques and things like this. I really wanted something that could double as a dining table and a kitchen island and transition between the kitchen and the living room. So I found this antique writing desk on Craigslist, and I cleaned it up, and it's been really, really great. I've used it in every corner of the home, and I've used it for every purpose, but I do enjoy having a singular purpose for each station in the tiny home. And that way I don't have to fully clear away one area in order to do something else. I can just always eat and prep in this area. I will say that when it came to finding furniture, I do have a natural inclination for farmhouse styles or antique styles, but they're also cheaper to find. A lot of the modern, mid-century modern, or even retro styles are just more expensive because they're trending right now. So if you want to furnish a small home on a budget, for me, it was easier to do with traditional antique pieces or commercial farmhouse styles like these solid wood chairs. Overall, I'm really pleased with being able to slowly grow into the space by thoughtfully acquiring quality pieces and really thinking about the positioning of where I put things to create efficient workflows. This is the living room area, and I wanted it to feel like a little nook within a tiny house, so that way I can read or relax or grade papers as an educator. I definitely think that when it comes to decorating, things are constantly evolving and changing, so what I have today isn't necessarily what I'll always have. But I did want solid wood and sturdy pieces of furniture. So my chair is an indoor-outdoor chair. It can withstand the elements. I have put it outside and it's fine. I definitely don't want a couch because I want to keep the open area large and wide so that I can exercise and stretch. This shutter came from the same seller as my antique desk, and I used it as a door to the bedroom because sometimes I just wanted to keep the cat out. And right now it's a decor piece, but I can always reattach it to the wall with some simple hinges and screws. This side table is part of the landing area when I come in, and it was a free spool from Home Depot that I just loaded up and took home. I have a antique hutch that is perfect for the books and collectibles that I have in a small storage unit that will eventually make its way here. And that way I can corral all of my collectibles in a curiosity cabinet instead of having them all over the home, because I don't want to do all of that dusting, and I do want to keep the rest of the home practical and efficient, so that way my collectibles will be nicely contained in here and it'll be exciting to refinish it and make it unique. This is my entryway, and I've never had a dedicated entryway in the small spaces that I've lived, but I'm really glad they have this wall here because it allows me to have a landing point and transition from coming home and going, and it just makes that transition more civilized and calming. It's pretty simple. I just have a hook and I have a bin for my shoes and my purse, but even that helps create a more intentional transition in and out of the home. There is a mini split that cools and heats the whole front room, and it can match the temperature in the mini split of the next room. Sometimes they need maintenance, which is normal, and this is why I'm glad I'm a renter, because if there's anything wrong with my mini splits, I can always make a phone call, send an email, and there's someone out that can fix it and that can help me. So I just always feel supported, and I don't feel like I'm left alone to dangle with this very important equipment. I've just always really liked creating and making things from when I was a child, and I just never stopped. And so I guess that's what makes an artist, is you just keep going. I don't really like to sell my artwork. I really just make it for my own pleasure and to give myself a creative outlet. It's meditative. I like to use recycled materials or economic materials. So it's just collaging with my own life and making something out of the scraps of my life and turning it into a treasure. I had a few ideas about my next transition into living small. I had always lived small in efficiencies or studios, but I wanted to take it a step further. I thought about converting my car into a camper and living in my car while I taught throughout the year, and then using the breaks and the summer to travel all around the USA. But then I was hit by a van My car was totaled, I was put in a neck brace. That idea was out. I thought about being a rural teacher and teaching rurally on a small plot I acquired in East Texas, but it was very raw land. It was not cleared, there were no roads, and I decided that was a little extreme, so I let that go. My other idea was to move back overseas where I wouldn't need a car. But when I came upon this listing, I thought it combined all the best of both worlds. So I was in a city center, but I was in a standalone building, and I just really jumped at the chance. And luckily, I was accepted, and I've been here for only a few months, and I really, really enjoy it. Even though I see myself being a long-term renter here, I do think that apartment complexes and homeowners building ADUs or converting garages or existing structures is a really strong way into the future. And I think it's a really great loophole to get around the zoning issues that can be in major cities. Because if you want to live tiny and maximize small resources, sometimes you have to go further and further away from a city, further away from jobs, further away from public transportation. And so for me, it was really essential that I be in a city because I needed those things. I don't see myself entertaining. I think of this space as just for me and my own safety and peace of mind. And as an adult who's unmarried, an adult who's child-free, I think that's a huge act of defiance to say that my space is just mine. And if I want to entertain or be entertained, I can go outside. I do have nieces and nephews, and I hope they sleep over and we have a good time. But my frame of mind for filling my space with furniture and decor is just for myself. Welcome to my sewing nook. It's placed on the built-in desk that was made from quartz that was already here, and I really appreciate how they created this built-in office. I have a heavy-duty Singer sewing machine, and I use a lot of old clothes or scrap fabric to make my creations. I've got a drying rack under here that I took apart to fit underneath, so that's my quilt rack, and I'm able to adapt the space like that as I need to. This is my walk-in closet, and this size and shape is just not something that I expected in a tiny home. I was really blown away. And again, I just love the built-in shelving. I like how the builder went straight across and didn't put a cross beam because that's how you lose space. So I can fit my winter clothes, I can fit collectible pieces that I like to alter or sew or adapt, and I can obviously fit my regular work clothes and all of my shoes in here. So I have room to grow, I have room to pare down, and I have room to store pretty much anything that I need. It is, I think, a closet designed for men because it has 2 bars and no dress rack, but I can fit my portable dress rack fully inside the closet, and there's no overhang, so it comfortably rolls right in and tucks in. So across from my sewing nook is the built-in bed, and it's a platform bed that's about 16 inches off the ground, so I can fit storage bins underneath. It can fit a full or queen size bed, and I just never expected to be able to have this much space in a tiny home. It also gives me wall space to work on and showcase my own art. Again, I really like that I have big blank walls where I can hang things, step back and look at it. So over here, we have the branch from a historic bur oak tree in Plano that fell in a storm. And certain pieces of the tree were given to artists all over the Metroplex, and I got a branch and I hung them up on this wall. And then behind me is a textile art piece that I made. And of course, they're never finished. I'm always working on them, tinkering with them, adding to and subtracting. And of course, with my supplies at the ready, just across the room, I can do that anytime I want. We're inside the bathroom, and as you can see, it's very large. I was very surprised by the size of the bathroom. I wanted to keep the floor space feeling really big, but there is room for growth. There's room for storage on the floor, on the walls, and the ceilings are really high because the ceiling here is slightly vaulted. So I really appreciate that, but I want it to feel expansive. So I hung the curtain as high as I could over the tub, which is pretty rare in a tiny home to have a tub. It also, in the shower and tub, has a window that opens so I can naturally circulate any steam and things like this to prevent any kind of mold or mildew. I painted all the walls here with mold and mildew resistant paint just to really ensure the long-term health of my bathroom. I have really great storage cabinet, huge, and it fits everything. So I have all that I need inside of my bathroom except for my vanity, which is outside of the bathroom. I think for a tiny home, this is really well laid out. When the door is closed, it feels very large, it's very inviting, and I just really like how streamlined it is. If I had to summarize my journey to this point, it would definitely be a destination to cozy. I took a very long route to get to this very cozy and comfortable place. I've had a lot of major shifts in my life, a lot of major moves, and I think that this is a great destination and a very soft place to land. I think if you are an artist or an educator, single, child free, I think living tiny is a really great way to maximize your resources. It's a great way to up your comfort level and your independence. It's not a punishment to live small, it's more freedom. Thank you all for watching the tiny home tour. And if you'd like to see more of my work or follow my journey, you can see my artist website at pleasantfolk.com.